As we know, Congress has trouble with deadlines, and that's why we always seem to be missing them. When we have trouble finding a permanent solution, we seem to kick the can down the road, hoping to find one later. We're here today trying to fix the problem that we have with the government student loan programs because we kicked the can down the road last year, and if we don't stop and start fixing things, we'll continue to do it. That breeds a lot of uncertainty into the minds of the families and the children who are trying to go on and better themselves. The results on July 1st, the rates on government-subsidized undergraduate Stafford loans doubled to 6.8%. That's a fact. That's what we know we're dealing with, and we're trying to reverse that. Not surprisingly, it set off alarms. Oh, my goodness, we all got excited about this. What are we going to do? Well, we had a year to do it and didn't do anything. We just extended it, 3.4 only for the Stafford subsidized loans and nothing for other loans that people were taking. And when you consider 11 million students who are trying to better themselves are borrowing money every year, we're only talking about 1 million. That's all we were trying to help. We forgot about everybody else. So it was time to fix it. So I say today with a yes vote on the bipartisan compromise that we worked out. I really can't even call it a bipartisan. It's really a tripartisan. Democrats, Republicans, and independents. That's pretty special around here, if you can get everybody agreeing and moving in the right direction. Let me explain what the bill does and what this bipartisan compromise will do. We can lower the rate for all undergraduates, that's all of them, from 6.8% where it is right now to 3.8%. That means a savings, so we'll understand, of $2,000 in interest for the average freshman student who starts college this year. And remember, doing nothing and voting against a long-term fix means that the 11 million students who will be borrowing money for this school year will pay a higher rate than they have to. Let's look at the amount of people that we're talking about and the type of money. This is what we're actually talking about. The legislation, the bipartisan plan, has been scored, and we know this first year saves $8.1 billion that students will not have to pay in interest. That we know. The first 4 years of this plan, 2013 through 2016, $31.8 billion. By doing nothing, that's what we're leaving. That's what we're making the students pay that much higher by doing nothing. Anything else we do other than the bipartisan, this is the type of money that they're paying in higher interest rates and more obligations on the families. All of us understand the importance of education. It's what has made America the land of opportunity. And all of us want to help students go as far as they can with their talent, as far as their talent is going to take them. That's what brought us, and all of us, so many of us together, to come up with the tripartisan fix, if you will, for the student loan program. We all understand that student loan rates are only one piece to the issue of making college more accessible and more affordable for all Americans who want to further their education. We'll get to the other pieces when we debate the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, which Senator Harkin has been working so hard on, and I truly look forward to having those discussions. But today we have to know what we're dealing with. We're dealing today with something that has an immediate impact on the pocketbook of student borrowers and their families, people who need to borrow money to go to school. That's what's in front of us. We've talked all over and around it. We're talking about accounting principles. We're talking about everything that needs to be looked on. But it's not going to change today what we're dealing with, because this bipartisan agreement truly has the savings that families need. It's probably more accurate to call, as I've said, our proposal tripartisan, and I'm proud to do that with all of us working together. When you think of bipartisan is hard to work and hard to get around here, tripartisan is like hitting the trifecta. That's the megabucks. We're doing really something right when we can get all three sides going in the same direction. This piece of legislation is a long-term fix. It's fair, it's equitable, and it's fiscally responsible. We all agree on a set of priorities as we began our negotiations, and it's everybody. That's Democrats and Republicans. That's my colleagues on my side of the aisle, the Democrat side, that have other proposals. What we all agreed on, we agreed that the interest rates should be as low as humanly possible. We also agreed there should be strong front-end caps on interest rates to protect student borrowers and in high interest rate environments so that it doesn't just run wild with them. It has a cap of 8.25%, which has been historic for some time. We've kept that cap there. We ensured that also government did not profit or lose money on the loans. And I think that was a big thing that we all came to an agreement, because some of the bills that we had anywhere up to $16 billion of profit built into them. And that money was going to go to debt reduction. We said basically every penny that we can reduce in interest, that money should go right back towards education for the student, and we've done that. I'll admit to you that there's no legislation perfect. I've been around this process for many years, and I've never voted on a perfect piece of legislation. But I've tried to get the best that we possibly could that made a difference and make sure that we could get it passed, and we have that today, a good piece of legislation. And then anything else that we think that needs to be fixed that we've talked about, we can do that when we do the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act under Chairman Harkin, which will be looking at everything. So here's how good this bipartisan, tripartisan compromise is. The undergraduate staffer loans, both subsidized and unsubsidized, are based around the 10-year T-bills plus the 2.05%, which would yield the 3.86% for this year. That current rate is 6.8. Now we're at 3.8. Let me show you another chart. Nearly 8 out of 10 undergraduate borrowers will have both sub and unsub loans, while only 1 out of 10 will have subsidized loans. These are the subsidized loans. That's how many students will have just a subsidized loan. That's what we thought we were fixing when we froze it at 3.4. That's all the people we helped. I don't think a lot of us understood. Some people thought that it helped everybody, and it didn't. So those who borrow only subsidized is this, the Stafford subsidized. Those who borrow only unsubsidized is this. But if you look at those who need both, this is what we're talking about. 6.5 million more students we are helping and serving through this bipartisan, tripartisan piece of legislation, the compromise. And this is what we've worked to do. How can we help? You want to help middle class? This is where the middle class is. This is where the people that need to have the assistance, this is where they come in. And we've done, I think, a very good job at doing that. You still have the PLUS loans. We have the graduate unsubsidized loans. All of those. Right now, the graduate unsubsidized staffer loans paying 6.8%. Under our piece of legislation, they'll be paying 5.4%. And if you look at the PLUS loans today, the PLUS loans current rate is 7.9%. Under our bill, it's 6.4%. 100% of every student, 11 million of them that are borrowing money, will be benefited by the bipartisan agreement. Everybody benefits. And that's what we've tried to do. Our plan keeps in place the IBR, which is the income-based repayment plan. This allows students, let's say that you graduate after 4 years and you've borrowed a lot of money. You have a lot of debt. And you get a job of $40,000. And you have 2 kids now. We've put in a protection that basically says that they can only charge you. You only have to pay 10% of your disposable income. 10% of your disposable income, $40,000 income with 2 children, could be as low as $142 a month. Now at $142 a month, and let's just say that the economy or the job you have, and that's where your heart and desires are, after 20 years, it's completely forgiven. After 20 years, you made a good effort, and maybe 50% of your loan is still owed. The taxpayers are picking up that. So when people said we're not really helping, and there's nothing that we're helping subsidize, or we should be subsidizing higher education, we're doing that. We are doing that, and I think with tremendous help. The Congressional Budget Office has said our bipartisan proposal will save the government $715 billion over 10 years. With a $1.4 trillion of money that will be borrowed, and $700 million, that's over 10 years, that's $70 million a year. That's about as close as they're able to come. That's about as close as they're able to come. And what that really amounts to is, to give it to you this way, it might be better. Over the 10 years, $715 million means that the federal government, if someone says, oh, but they're making a profit, over 10 years, the federal government will make $2.76. $2.76 on each loan. And if we can get it to zero, we'll take it to zero. We don't make a penny. That's about as close as you can get working with the types of numbers we're working with. We shouldn't deny students starting college this fall $2,000 in savings for the sake of a principal, saying, oh, they're making $2.76 over 10 years, so I shouldn't have the $2,000 of savings. It just doesn't make sense to me. Chart number 3 here. This is the average freshman in 2013. The average freshman in 2013 who graduates in 4 years will save over $2,000 on our plan. $22,000 versus current law, $24,000. $24,000. In the years ahead, the interest rates on newly issued federal student loans will be tied to the U.S. Treasury 10-year borrowing rates, plus add-ons to offset costs associated with defaults, collections, deferments, forgiveness, and delinquencies. Now, what we're talking about is if what they're saying, rates are going to go up. CBO is projected. They've projected before. If everything that you're hearing, and they say that rates will go up, that's where the difference of about $500 comes in. That's the difference. That's the worst case scenario, that $500 would come in. Setting the rates to the market of borrowing costs is fair, it's equitable, and it's sustainable, as long as we have strong borrower protections and fiscally responsible. This way, we can ensure that Washington does not wind up either profiting from students or losing money on them. Depending on the method of accounting that you use, you've heard so much about how much money we're making and this and that, and let me explain a little bit about the accounting procedure. The student loan program either generates $184 billion if you use the Federal Credit Reform Act, and I will say the Federal Credit Reform Act has been the way that the CBO has scored for the last 23 years. 23 years, that's the way it's been done. If you use the fair value accounting, which some have basically supported and want us to change to, even CBO has pointed towards that, there would be a $95 billion loss. There's a $280 billion swing between what some people say we're making excess profit, others saying we'd be losing money. It's not paying for itself. We're still subsidizing at the $95 billion rate. That's a tremendous swing. We're not going to fix that. Senator Harkin is going to look at all of this, and we'll be able to address all of this in the comprehensive bill. We should all agree that it's simply not fair to make a profit on the backs of students, and we agree on that. And that's why, no matter what happens in the market, in the long term, the Senate compromise, and we fought hard for this on the front end, the Senate compromise includes an interest rate cap of 8.25%. This is important because there will be approximately $140 billion in new loans issued every year, which means $1.4 trillion in loans will be issued over the next 10 years. Madam President, in just a few short weeks, students will be returning to school, and they will have plenty to worry about. What books to buy, where their classes are, and how to haul all their stuff to their rooms, and much, much more. This last chart I want to show you. There's been so much discussion, so much argument. There'll be basically amendments that we'll be voting on that's all based around what's going to happen after 4 years. Let me show you in 2003 what the CBO said that basically the interest rates would be. We start here in 2003 around 4%. They felt that they would go up to about 5.8, 5.9 and level off for the past decade. That's 203 to 213. This is actually what happened. If we'd have locked into some of the amendments they're telling us to lock into, some of my colleagues, which I respect, and you'd have never been able to take advantage of these historic lows. We're able to adjust with that based on the market rate rather than just fixed rate. These are the things we don't know, but we know we're going to score $31 billion in savings the first 4 years. We do know that. But this is how far they've been off before. So there's no science in this. And anyone thinks it's the gospel, it's not. But with a yes vote in our legislation today, there's one less thing students and their families will have to worry about: what the interest rate will be this year and how it will be calculated for years to come. We all came here to help our constituents do what we believe is right. We all agree that ensuring college remains affordable and accessible for this and future generations of Americans is the right thing to do. There simply is no better investment that we can make than the education of our children and grandchildren. We will count on today's students to be the driving force of American creativity and innovation in the years ahead. Some bedrock values define America. One of them is pretty fundamental. We believe in opportunity. We believe that everyone who wants to work hard and play by the rules should have a shot to succeed. To make good on that promise, the promise of the American dream, we must do all that we can for the students to have affordable education. With a vote today on this bipartisan, more appropriately, a tripartisan agreement to lower the interest rates in all student loans, we will take a large step in the right direction. That is why I urge all of my colleagues to support this bipartisan, tripartisan, agreed-upon piece of legislation that really helps the students in the future. So with that, Madam President, I yield the floor.